Burt, Burt, Burt. You make the ladies want to squirt, squirt, squirt. I'm a filthy human being. My name's Dougie Dilf. We got Stefan Hammer Weber. Do you still go by Hammer?
Not really.
Okay.
I never did. I just threw it in there.
Yeah, that's what got you the Knicks. And we're Radio Loud. So, got to pay homage to the late, the great, the king of the mustache, Burt Reynolds.
The original bandit.
Right?
Stealing ladies' hearts.
I think one of the things that me and Stefan both really liked about Burt Reynolds was his surprise cameo in Saints Row 3.
Oh, yeah. You had to pick him. It was him or zombies. You had to pick him, although now you'd have to pick
You didn't really
zombies.
get to pick. Like, for those of you who haven't played Saints Row 3, the Saints Row series was one of the only series to directly contest the Grand Theft Auto formula until Grand Theft Auto 5 came out and just smashed everything.
Well, yeah, they also haven't come out with the Saints Row in some time.
Yeah, actually they have. They came out with...
superhero one?
Yeah, that Agents of whatever, with that fucking Johnny character from that.
Johnny Goes to Hell or whatever.
Yeah. But in Saints Row 3, I feel like that was the one that they were all absurd, but that one was the one.
I don't think the first one was super absurd, but 3 was definitely absurd.
Actually, I heard that the original Saints Row was originally supposed to be like a Dave Chappelle video game, and he was supposed to like write for it.
I have never heard that.
I heard it on, some of the YouTube historians, like like lesser known, more recent things. But
3 was my favorite.
3 was my favorite too. It had ATB in it. That's After the Burial. That was like, fuck.
What did they do in there?
I feel
They said a song in there?
yeah, they had I think it was cursing Akhenaten. But
Some stuff off Rare Farm.
yeah, it was something off Rare Form. That was a big deal to us because After the Burial, or ATB, was
Part of the Midwestern trifecta.
The explosion. We saw them before they became big. They were like, little piss-ons traveling, packing 5 dudes in a fucking van and traveling to the next
boys
state
from the
over
Twin Cities.
to make no money.
But they were having a good time, and
Yep.
they got signed on Sumerian and became part of the Sumerian armbar with Velamaya and Born of Osiris.
So, back to Saints Row 3 and Burt Reynolds. Basically, Saints Row 3 took the Saints Row formula and then just kept ratcheting it up. So it kind of went from gang violence to government takeover kind of thing to alien invasion. And then when you don't think it could get any more ridiculous,
You find out
Burt Reynolds is the mayor of the city, and it's actually Burt Reynolds playing Burt Reynolds.
And I was playing a female character, and she was just so excited to meet Burt Reynolds. It was great. I loved it, dude.
Burt, you make the ladies want to...
What a true American gem.
I didn't really know that he started his acting career because he was injured in sports. He's like an American football player, and then he hurt his knees, so then he started taking up acting.
The heartthrob. America's heartthrob.
Back
Sports
when
star, actor,
back when you could barely
lady slayer.
afford like a stainless steel shiny trailer off of a fucking football player's salary. Now they're making like...
You mean you end up like Uncle Rico?
Yeah, right? Back when he said I could have threw a football in the
Right over those
mountains.
mountains, yeah.
All right, yeah, so cheers. Cheers to Burt. So I wanted to bring up, you ever done something just so dumb and not realized you done it?
Yeah, but can we get the Mac Miller thing out of the way too? Because that just happened like an hour ago.
It was like an hour ago. We're going to keep it on death and, all this sad shit. Mac Miller.
I know Sean, R.I.P. also.
Yeah,
Listen to him.
he's going to see Sean in heaven. You're going to fucking hell.
Yeah, but I don't know that much about him, but young, 26 years old.
Yeah, he didn't even make it to the Doors age, man, you know?
Yeah, he actually, in one of his songs, supposedly had a lyric about not wanting to be in the 27 Club, so...
Dude, I actually saw as a fan of the Norm Macdonald subreddit, and Norm Macdonald used to famously play Burt Reynolds on Saturday Night Live on the Jeopardy sketch.
Turd Ferguson.
Yeah, it's not my name. So on the Norm Macdonald subreddit, there was like a lot of love outpouring for Burt Reynolds because everybody who knows Norm is
Likes
familiar
Burt, yeah.
with Burt. So there was a comment on there that was like, oh, there's another one to the age of 82. It's the curse of the Doors.
All right, but you asked me if I had ever done something stupid. Yes, I've done many stupid things.
So what I did this morning, I hope you got one.
You want me to open with
No,
mine?
I'm going to open.
Okay.
What I did, and I didn't realize until I hopped in the shower, is I put on 2 pairs of underwear. Like, I put one on and then put another pair on in 2 separate
I thought your story was going to be like, I almost cut my arm off or something like that.
No, man. I'm keeping this fucking relatable, but yeah, I fucking... All right, then what the fuck do you got, man?
I almost cut my foot off in a lawnmower.
What?
Yeah, so it was a push lawnmower, and being the burgeoning mechanic that
All right,
I
yeah,
was,
just let's suck the details out of this. Let's draw it out.
Being the burgeoning mechanic that I was, it was a push lawnmower, and it had an oil pan. It had an oil problem, so it was like leaking oil.
Now, was this like straight push lawnmower?
It's
Was
a push
it like
lawnmower
an
with
assist auto glide?
Assist auto glide push lawnmower.
Nice.
You pull the lever down, it goes forward. You it stops. So there was some sort of oil issue, and it was leaking oil. So
I like that. Leaking oil. He goes leaking.
So I had it flipped upside down, and I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but I tried to start it, and I had it flipped upside down.
You know what? Knowing you, having lived with you, and seeing some of the things you've done, that doesn't seem that out of the ordinary.
Very, very stupid thing to do. And I had my foot on it.
Like you're just trying to keep it down, like yanking on it.
Yeah.
Like,
because I had it turned. Yeah, I had turned on it. I had it turned on its side, and I was trying to see where this, by like going through the action, it was leaking. It was like pushing oil out of this. There was a pin missing, basically, but it wasn't going to start. But it was really stupid because the oil pin had.
So did it start?
No, it couldn't start because the.
Did you just fucking like? Were you yanking on it and we're like, oh, this is dumb.
Yep. And I was like, I stopped and I was like, I could have just chopped my foot off.
When's the last time you mowed a lawn?
That's the thing. This was ages ago.
Right?
I haven't had an incident like I've almost chopped my own head off or anything like that for a long time.
Now,
But I was young.
I
was an immortal teenager. We'll put it that way.
I've been living in a condo complex where there's like a groundskeeper basically, and that's kind of what we're paying for our monthly dues. So I haven't had to cut the grass in a long time. And I used to live up north on a resort that had a lot of yard work to do. It wasn't like luxury or anything like that. Fucking A, I gotta stop saying like. But we had 6 acres of grass to mow.
That's like a whole day.
Yeah. And
Or at least the afternoon.
as a kid, I used to be all... Not going to say it. I used to get excited after like... Fuck. riding go-karts and like, oh, I want to ride the tractor. I want to drive the tractor.
Except it doesn't go fast.
Yeah, it doesn't go fast. And my dad said to me one day, he's like, we can put some racing stripes on it and it'd be just like the go-karts. And looking back at it, I'm like, man, he just tricked me into...
Doing his work.
some of it. Some of it. So... Man, I had a story about...
You don't have a near-death, I almost chopped my hand off story or anything like that?
Not like that. No.
You have to have a close call story where it was like...
I would have to think about it because things are getting fuzzy. It's kind of funny how times like that, you know? You search your life for... you really try to draw the water out of the well for this kind of application. And it's funny how in the moment you come up with nothing, but then all of a sudden, man, this fucking thing happened.
I almost got my leg ripped off, yeah. Yeah, I've seen many close calls, nail gun close calls with people almost just...
I do have a nail gun story. See how things pop up like that? Not a near death, but...
Very dangerous.
Very dangerous, very stupid, and it wasn't me getting harmed. I just remember it because I was the one pulling the trigger, and I asked, "Are we good? Are you sure?
Is this really what you want to do with your life?"
I don't feel... No, it wasn't something in that manner. It was in Woods class, the 1 year I actually took it. And we're building like these small kind of mock-ups of something, and we're doing like some...
Like a mock birdhouse. Or like a mock shed or something.
I don't know, something like that. Some bullshit. Doesn't matter. All that you need to know is what we were doing was kind of... I couldn't do it with both hands. I couldn't do it myself, so I had to have a friend hold the thing together, and it wasn't a full-size nail gun. It was just like a little kind of like tack nail gun.
I'm picturing a little tyke nail gun, but I know that's not what it is. You were probably doing some sort of faux drywall type thing or something then.
No, it was like a small piece of like weak wood that we were putting together. Okay. So my friend is like holding this thing with his hands, with his penis, with his tentacle penis, with a corpse with his hands, with his tongue. He's got his fucking hands around this thing, and I'm looking at him. He's like, "Are you sure
that
your shit is out of the way?" He's like, "Yeah." Like, real confident. He's like, "Are you sure?" It's like, "Yep." Fucking pull the thing. He's like, "Ah!" It fucking shoots a nail right into, like, the side of his finger. It went through the flesh of the outside of his finger. So it wasn't that bad.
But it hurt.
Yeah, I bet it fucking hurt. Serves that dumbass well. And I felt bad, and I shouldn't, but I felt bad because I was the one who pulled the trigger. I'm like the cop from Family Matters and Die Hard. Could never bring myself to wield a nail gun again. So I shot my friend.
Oh.
Tales from the well of stupidity.
Yeah, I never was directly associated with the nail gun story, but I'd seen guys doing the construction stuff. It's just like, you got so lucky right there. Or somebody accidentally firing it off when they pick it up or something stupid like that. Just dumb stuff.
So, what do we got for our first news story? Oh, yeah. We have to add that the human centipede story from last week came out to be false. It's traveling around through social media. And
fake news.
Yep.
Buzz it. Yep.
Buzz it. Sorry.
So we'll work on trying to keep.
I don't even feel like we really have to work that hard for it. Like that one.
But put a little effort into it. Fact checking or trying to keep our sources fresh.
It's not hard.
Yeah.
Especially that
we're just so juicy.
I know. I couldn't believe that actually had happened, and you know,
didn't.
it's too bad to be true. You know,
yeah, it's too disgusting.
So, what's our first story from the frying pan this week?
You had one here.
Oh, yeah, this is pretty stupid. This
Brought
is
to us by thedailymail.com.
So you want to read that headline there? Let's see her face here.
Mother 23 who
Bring up
searched.
the picture. Bring the picture down and read that headline.
Mother who searched how to commit the perfect murder online is arrested for killing both her children 2 years apart. And she looks like somebody we went to high school with.
Looks like somebody I dated. No offense to that person. But
so you got the juicy bits out of this story?
I don't know. I think she strangled her second child. I don't know how she killed the first one. I don't know if it was some Munchausen syndrome type stuff, but they basically probably connected the dots after these two incidents had happened, you know? One happens, you know, infant mortality is a thing. That's why people in the 20s used to have 6, maybe up into the 50s. And then...
Yeah, my grandma had 13.
Oh, my God, dude. Was she a Mormon?
Nope. Just a good non-Irish Catholic lady.
They still fucking crank those out, man.
But La Fountain...
Every sperm is sacred, Stefan.
The first child's death is inconclusive because it was from a previous... It wasn't fully investigated, I assume. And the second one was from lack of oxygen to the brain.
Right, and, like, you wouldn't maybe suspect it on the first one because infant mortality, you know, it's a thing.
Happens.
Like we just said, children die. But 2 in this day and age? What? That's kind of crazy that not too long ago, when polio was a thing, and polio is coming back in a big way, maybe, you know, mumps and measles because all that anti-vax shit.
That's a whole nother thing.
Right.
That's a touchy subject.
It's not touchy.
No, I'm not saying it's touchy. I mean, it's infuriating.
Yeah. It's touchy in the way that it strikes a nerve in the most logical people's minds. And okay.
That's exactly what I'm referring to.
There is a page for, I think it was River West recently that I've seen. Somebody posted some anti-vax stuff, and thankfully that page is usually a hotbed for shitheads, but they collectively ate this person. And not just there's like a River West page, and then there's like a River West butthurt page, so there's like 2 pages, and it's just like the stuff that I hate the most about Facebook going on in those
one
2.
Place?
Yeah, I actively observe and watch, and I don't dare.
I've never seen
chip
a hive.
Yes, I've never. It's a fucking shithole.
I've never seen a large hive of
scum and villainy. And virtue signaling and anti-virtue signaling. Like, it is just the hotbed of people that you are within arm's reach of. Just at it.
But yeah, vaccinate your children. It's good. Get your pets spayed and neutered. That's also good too. Adopt. Let's go back to this.
Get your husband spayed or neutered.
Yes, please.
Get yourself spayed or neutered.
But this 23-year-old, so she killed one of her children. What tipped him off here? Just the other death? That's it?
I don't know if that was actually the one, but what tipped him off was the Google searches. They just accessed her internet browsing history and saw.
Why would they even feel
it was like good way to strangle? Well, maybe it was the second. It was something
it's a
along
how-to WikiHow guide,
like a Disney Vacation.
Yeah,
the subreddit.
Just like choke like this and then loosen up or not loosen up. Depends on what kind of play you're going into.
Yeah, I actually saw a. It's not strangulation, technically. I saw a dude with his shirt off on the subway just wanting to start some shit with some other guy. Might have been high, but this guy wanted to fight. And
it's in local because we don't have a subway.
No, it's not local. It was a video that was going around earlier. There's no news story to go with it. But this guy who he's threatening does not want to fight, and all of a sudden, this Good Samaritan's arm just reaches around the back and fucking
sleeper holds him,
pulls him apart. Yeah, just gives him that like nice little hug goodnight, and
his arms
just
limp.
drops the dude, just like brings him down, just stops that blood flow, and then tries to get up, and he's like, "No, dude," just puts his foot
Stay
on.
down, baby boy. All right, I have another murder story. Author of
this one-
romance novel, The Wrong Husband, charged in murdering her own. So, our Nancy Crampton Brophy, 68, what a tongue full of it, wrote multiple romantic novels, including The Wrong Cop, The Wrong Lover, The Wrong Husband. And
Bring up this picture of Murder, She Wrote here.
here's our murdering romantic novelist.
Woo wee.
Some beautiful green eyes. But apparently,
Wasn't
apparently, none of the family obviously could believe it, but
let's see the husband here.
she murdered her husband.
Oh man,
I love the rooster.
is that the dude who did Igor?
When he gets a little older, maybe. The news story I have, I got it off ABC. I believe she shot him, but there's not too many details right now.
Really, there wasn't. Is this something that's you think is going to be drug out like the Stephen Avery trial, man?
I mean, maybe just because it's so juicy.
I mean,
But
is it really though?
It's just one of those.
How long they've been living together?
How long have
They
they been
both
married?
look elderly. That's some time to develop some real hate. It's those cases where you have young people that you maybe have that young crazy person number one, crazy person number two. They just really bring that thing out of each other, and then all of a sudden, in a fit of passion, one murders the other. This looks like this is some. I've watched him chew with his mouth open for
like
so fucking
like
long.
a,
I just can't stand it. What you
Edgar
got?
Allan Poe, the guy who murders the butler who murders his hiree, and then he buries his heart, the telltale heart. He can't stand anything about him. Kills the guy and then buries his heart under the
Now
floorboard.
I actually I've never read that, and I've never heard it referenced anywhere else but an episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah,
That's the only reason I know of
butler
that story.
Can't take his master anymore. He finds him repulsive, disgusting, and everything. Murders him, buries him underneath the floorboard. The detective comes, and he hears his heart
It's like
under
his watch or some shit.
Yeah.
He basically gives himself away because he's so paranoid, and he thinks that they can hear the heart too. Now, I don't think that this lady.
No, that's not how this happened.
Scroll up. So
They
we
do
can
not.
Get up,
They
so we
have
can
not
get a picture of
determined.
her.
Well, there's the book. There's the picture. Look at these book covers.
That's her.
That's her book. All right. So she writes these erotic
think of
novels.
this.
She writes these erotic novels, something we're very fond of here on Radio Loud. And she murdered her husband, 63, apparently shot him dead. But in this news story, it has no relation to how the police determined that she was the shooter. So that's obviously going to come out later. I think this is going to get dragged out. Is it going to be a blockbuster case of 2018's closing statement? I doubt it, but we'll try to follow it.
And we're gonna have a new Netflix series called "Making an Erotic Audiobook" because nobody reads anymore.
Yeah. She
no.
done it, apparently.
Well, it sounds pretty open and closed. I mean, they don't really have to figure out why she did it. If they knew, if they know,
That damn rooster.
that's it.
That damn rooster. She couldn't handle it anymore. Wanted it out of the house.
All right, what do we got next for?
You have any tales from the week?
I
I do, because I had.
mean, I
hockey.
do, but I don't have anything that's relatable. I've been working with a guy who is basically a technician, but doesn't know anything about networking. And it's kind of just like the nitty gritty of if you understand basic computer networking, then you can relate to my angst. But as I found in my days, most people don't. So I just...
The average guy, no.
This guy is above average, and I felt like he should have known just a little bit more.
I had some computer networking woes, but that's not what I wanted to share. I wanted to share that I had a hockey game last Saturday and I scored my first goal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
What's the let's see here.
Second scrimmage.
Sports desk. We're all pink on the inside.
It's my second game. I got my first goal. Like a minute or two into the first period.
Now, I don't want to make you feel like shit, but that probably just says loads about the people you're playing with.
I was in the old timers league, but there was actually some pretty good guys out there. There were some older guys, there were some younger guys, but everyone was pretty impressed, especially considering it was my second game.
Now, why were you in the old timers league? Just because
It
of,
was an opening.
Okay.
I sent out a couple texts to a number of people.
or just like you need to fill
Just
in?
like, yeah, and he
Oh, cool.
texted me the day before. He's like, can you be there at this time? Bring a dark jersey. We need an extra spot fill. I was like, yeah.
Awesome.
So I went in there, filled the slot, and it was actually a lot more work than the other scrims I went to because they had a smaller bench. So you got way more ice time. But I scored left face-off circle from a good pass. Got it right side of the goalie's leg. And then I almost also got into a debacle with some guy. So I checked two guys, not necessarily intentionally. I checked one dude, knocked him down. The other dude I just kind of backed into. But at the very end of the
How
game...
old was he, Stefan? Come on, they're gonna break his hip.
No. But one of the...
They're gonna fuck you up.
Maybe. But at the end of the game, I didn't realize we only had 15 seconds left, or 20 seconds left, but a guy on the opposing team hooked my teammate against the boards. And like he was just holding him there while he had the puck. He couldn't escape because hooking, you use your stick. So he basically had him pinned against the wall. And I don't know what came over me, but I let out like a couple really loud, like, hey! Hey! Until this guy turned and looked at me and saw me coming right towards him. Just like I was not having any of it. Do it.
That's what his fucking brain said.
And then the buzzer went off, and I was like, oh, it's over. It was good though.
I drew some like links between like you getting called in for like the senior league or whatever. They're
not actually all old timers though.
Well, no, none of them is gonna fucking listen to this. So
They're really not though. There are some guys that are around my age.
what do you mean? Like 40s, 45, 50?
It's a pretty wide breadth. There was other guys my age, and then there were dudes who were probably 50s.
Hey man,
It was just whoever could play. It was just like a pickup game.
More experience, more grace.
There's one dude there with a slap shot that put the fear of God in me. Yeah,
Right?
just like he was a younger dude too, and then he was real. He had no fear with the stick. He would just like I thought he was just gonna pressure my stick or break my hockey stick.
That's one of the things that I always had with playing lacrosse. I would just get so into it that I would just like forgetting about how tired you were, you'd just get so into the game because you wanted to fucking win.
Yeah.
I can't do that with hockey because I have to make sure I don't fucking die. I have to make sure I stay upright and don't crack my fucking head on the ice.
Once you're all padded up, it's not that bad. But once
I want some of those,
Once he was going nuts with the stick, I was like, you know what? I can do that too. And I broke up a breakaway, or a guy was going to be one-on-one with our goalie, and I came up behind him, and I dove and just like laid out with my stick and blocked him. It was great.
Nice.
I was great, man. I had a great time.
That's great. That's great. You had a great time.
I just feel like I had to share. And I like Wilson Park. I like the ice there.
I was gonna say when you said, "Oh yeah, Wilson's great."
It's really hot when you're not on the rink though, because of that pool.
There's a pool in there.
Yeah. It's so humid in there. You didn't notice like the humidity just when you walk. Well, it was summer. It was probably just humid in general. But holy crap!
So I, against my will, back in like 7th grade, I had just moved here with me, madre and padre, and
La familia.
I was encouraged to join some rec department sports.
Get those extracurriculars.
No, it's not extracurricular. It's completely independent of school. It's just rec department shit. So I joined baseball, and I'm reminded of this every time I walk into my pops' office. He's got a bunch of just a ton of shit, and I say this to him sometimes, like, dude, you gotta get rid of some of these knickknacks, man. It's just knickknacks on knickknacks, you know? And it's like, but I like it. And it's like, what so it all has sentimental value. I wish I could have that many things with like sentimental value. I'm not like a collector, you know? I have a lot of things, but they're functional. But I don't really collect like little
knickknacks.
Yeah, or memorabilia or stuff like that.
Yeah, okay. I got you.
So there's this picture of me superimposed on like a baseball magazine because they take the pictures for the parents.
Does it say Little Slugger on it or something?
Oh, I don't know what it says. But I remember when we got it, I used to be bad at like school pictures. And a couple of times in, I don't know, 1st, 2nd grade, didn't smile for the school picture. And your parents pay a lot of money for the school picture. And they're basically making a line of little kids and we're like, all right, next, here you go. Click, next, click. You get like one chance to make it right.
Yep.
And I went home a couple times with some like shit packages of pictures, and I knew it going home. I'm like, oh man, these look bad.
But they like never care.
No, my parents were like, dude, what the fuck?
hell,
We
Doc?
paid a bunch of money for this.
the hell,
These are
Doc?
keepsakes. So since that era, I don't blame them, but I don't really keep pictures that much.
Yeah, I'm not a picture guy.
I'm not a picture guy either. But this one was one of the positive pictures that I got back from my parents. Like, oh, my dad was like, you look mean. So it was just some stupid baseball cover magazine. I'm glad he likes it. If you listen to this, Pops, glad you got that one out of me. But the thing about the league was, if you can call it that,
It's just kids playing in the field,
it turned into that.
making dirt mounds and stuff.
But we got there and it was supposed to be age brackets, you know? There was the middle school league, and then there was the upper elementary school, and then the young kids. Nobody signed
All got
up.
thrown out the window, didn't it?
All got thrown out the window.
That happened to me too.
All of us got put in together in one league. And honestly, it seemed pretty bogus at the time because I was with this. I was one of the oldest kids. There was one kid that was older than me, and he was fucking good. Like, he was really good. And then he looks at me, he's like, well, at least there's two of us. And I'm just like, yeah, yeah, right? And this is my fucking first year. You know?
Yeah.
So he finds out I fucking blow. We obviously get split up onto different teams because there's just like this fucking Coach Jagoff, Coach Six-Pack, fucking Bong Brow. He has to coach this entire thing now. He's like, this is not what I fucking signed up for. I have to do just these like pre-pubescent males along with little kids.
Yeah.
And somehow keep this like cohesive,
Organized.
you know?
Yours seems to have been better than mine. I did flag football through the Y. Mm-hmm. My dad ended up being the coach. We played 2 games against appropriately aged opponents. And you want to know what happened after that?
What?
So I had to have been 4th grade, we started playing middle schoolers who just destroyed us because they were in 8th grade. And it didn't make any freaking sense. It was so stupid. My dad was like, why is this happening to us? Like, it's just how they set up how that's all the people they had. So it's like, well, I guess you guys got to play these people.
I guess, like, you know, the Parks and Rec department has to do the best that it's been given.
Yeah.
You know?
And just get destroyed. We played like another 3 games against these way older people and just got annihilated.
Now, to be honest,
You know, just reaching over the offensive line and grabbing it from you before you can do anything.
it's like just grabbing the kid by the head and just
Then taking the flag.
take whatever it is, no matter what sport it is, just be like, this mine now,
Basically,
me
it was
now
terrible.
win. But honestly, it wasn't that bad. Like, overall, the experience was a positive one. Got to meet some cool younger kids, and you kind of learn that even though, you know, you stop playing with like action figures and stuff like that, and that's how you kind of think about the younger generation. Honestly, all throughout the ranks, from adolescent to fully grown adults till death, we're pretty much all little kids at heart, you know? And I'm trying to make this a little wholesome.
Trying to put a ball on this shit pile.
But it was kind of funny because I was at the skate park with this clan, basically. Had like 20 cousins in Germantown, where I went to high school. And man, did their grandparents like to fuck a lot. Kind of segues back, you know? This is the old ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And it carried on to the next generation where it wasn't so necessary. But I remember being at the skate parks, be like, oh, yeah, dog, you're in the baseball league with blah, 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 my little cousin. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, fuck me. Yeah, just like the places I would catch shit for like being in that league. Maybe it was because I was fresh to the town and I didn't know, or none of us knew that the Parks and Rec was bullshit. And it's like, you just do school league. That's what you do in this town.
Yeah.
Because Germantown was
Sports school.
something else. Like,
I mean,
that town was a
realistically-
football cult. Oof.
I mean, realistically, that's all they had there. What else did Germantown have going on
They have...
for school programs that were successful?
Oh, you meant school? I was going to say they have a pick and save.
And it's a good one.
I remember a story about Germantown. Obviously, this is the place to send German exchange students. Right? Wrong. When you are a German exchange student, you go to Germany and you basically get to drink as a young teenager and get to see a bunch of cool shit. They have cool shit that they have in their towns.
And what
Not
do you
this
do
place.
when
You
you
know
go
what
to
they
Germantown?
did to these German kids that paid all this money to see America? They brought them to the Germantown pick and save. And it's like, look at our sign that says Willkommen. Ah!
I did not know all that. But I wouldn't want to be a German exchange student going to Germantown. You'd think they'd go to Milwaukee or something.
You think they'd been taken to Mater's at least?
Or the Usinger's Brat Factory.
Here, this is the halls of
You're
death.
German?
Here's
You
the
like
halls
brats?
of death links.
You like brats, right? How insulting.
All right. What do we got next for the news? What do we got on the docket
video.
here? Oh, yes, this fucking dude.
You got some groundwork you want to lay on this one?
This isn't necessarily news, but just watch this guy.
You want me to audio narrate this?
We're gonna start the playback. This guy is...
Okay, there's a tall, skinny fellow on top of a
you don't have to
police
narrate it all because we're both watching it, and there's this guy who is trying to he's on top of an SUV and he's trying to smash
police
the shit.
SUV.
Yeah, and he's not
too
getting
skinny to
anywhere.
smash anything.
He's not getting anywhere, and there's basically like a cop on his radio, and now there's two.
Calls for backup.
Yeah. Now there's two. He's trying to kick in the back window. He's just like kind of like
He
a
did
toddler,
successfully-
kicking and screaming.
He did successfully.
Now there's 8 cops.
He did successfully break the back window.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's great. And now this cop basically is tossing him off the side, and they're all catching him.
That guy has a tase rifle.
Serves that fucking guy right, though. What the fuck did he think
The bicycle cop didn't
was
even,
going to happen?
The bicycle cop didn't even jump to or do anything. He just called for backup, stood there with his pot belly.
Yeah,
and was
right.
just like, they're coming for you, boy.
I
They're
commend
coming for you.
that man for the patience. He's
Exercising extreme patience.
Yeah, and to those who wait,
So
come
what do you
great
think?
things.
You think this is drug fueled, anger filled,
I don't know.
stupidity filled, booze filled? He's got too good a balance to be booze filled.
Right. Maybe it's PCP. I don't know. If it was PCP, he would have fucking
needs to
gotten
be
through that
naked.
window in one fucking fell swoop, man.
And he'd
he
need
would have
to
just been
be-
like, boom.
He'd need to be naked. I don't understand the stand he's taking here.
Not to be an advocate for PCP, and I've never tried PCP, but I was interested in Hamilton's pharmacopoeia for a while, and apparently those stories, we've all heard them, of people like conjuring the strength of 10 men and fucking punching their way out of the back of a police car on a PCP high. Apparently those are like extreme outliers. It just doesn't happen that much.
Well, it's like the lifting the car off your baby thing. It's just some sort of adrenaline filled miracle dream. All right. So speaking of drugs, waspine. What is this? You want to fill me in on what waspine is? It's a new drug trend. A new drug trend.
Yeah, I saw it earlier today. It's something that hasn't taken off yet, but
I mean, I imagine from what the description I read, this being pretty hard to sell to somebody.
right. It's a combination of methamphetamine and wasp nest chemicals.
Wasp nest spray,
Yeah.
like Raid.
I don't know what the active ingredient in it is, but it sounds like some sort of like proto-crocodile. Where these things almost come out of the user's desperation to chase the
Receive a
dragon.
high. Yeah.
To receive like something new almost, the high of the drug that they're on
Is
is
not
dull.
doing it.
Yeah. And they're trying to find like a new component to kind of up the ante to make it become like it was, which is, futile. For those of you who don't know what crocodile is, it was like a combination of petroleum products, gasoline,
One of those mixed
and
incorrectly.
heroin.
It became acidic. Acidic?
Yeah. And they called it crocodile basically because it would turn the user's skin into this dead, flaky crocodile.
Your skin peels off.
Yeah. It basically just kills your skin, and you're putting the shit into your veins, and it corrodes you from the inside out. But even that had a chemical compound that it did create. That happened to be one that I don't know if it was.
I believe it was mostly off of just the bad batches of it. It had an extra molecular compound or something.
It wasn't just the bad batches. It was people who were poor and couldn't afford the actual chemical process of like brewing this. So they couldn't extract all of the chemicals that were bad for you.
Basically get the impurities out.
Yeah. And through desperation, it drives people to do just insane things.
Yeah, desperate, insane things. Just like this guy, our naked Florida man, who accidentally started his house on fire, desperately trying to make cookies on his George Foreman grill. Does this have a tale that relates to you? Somehow, did you start a fire on your George Foreman?
I didn't start a fire, but tried to cook some like onions on my stovetop while I was cooking some brats, and nothing went up. It just filled the place with smoke.
Just carbonized.
Yeah, that's the one thing that Sean R.I.P. used to like shit on my cooking forever. He's like, "Oh, I've had your cooking." It's like when he said that, I was like, "I don't think I've ever really cooked for you." And then after a while, it clicked. I was like, "Oh, that's what he's referring to." The one time I burnt some onions. But yeah, this guy apparently drank a shit ton of vodka.
Ooh,
And he was just high on the marijuans.
That's too bad. Drinking, getting high, gonna enjoy some cookies.
Now, just drinking.
Burn your fucking house down. End up
too
outside
much.
naked.
Now, he was just inside.
2 liters of vodka.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to have this little sip. I'm going to get fucking annihilated, and I'm just not going to... He probably wasn't even conscious of the fact that he decided to, the animal brain in his head decided, I'm going to keep you breathing, and I'm going to make some cookies. And he forgot about the cookies. Now, the funny part about the story was that same brain decided, to put the fire out on the grill, I'm going to get a towel wet, put it on there. And then eventually the moisture goes away and just adds more kindling to the fire.
Yeah.
So,
Mistakes were made. A house was burned down. Gonna have to go to some drug and alcohol counseling.
Is he going to have to do that? Because
Probably be state mandated.
Yeah, in that situation, probably. But I don't know. He like refused care. He at least seemed conscious enough to where they didn't just like force him.
Well,
you can't make this decision for.
They said
yourself.
in the story it had been an all-day drinking thing, and I don't think he said he started drinking at 9 a.m, and this all happened around 5:30. So it was an all-day bender experience.
Yeah. No comment. No comments. Oh, snap. Oh, shit. All right, we're about 50 minutes in. Let's take a little break.
Breaky boo.
Do you have that picture of Burt? All right, no, we're just going to go to BRB.
OC, original content. Suggestion box.
Oh, everybody's least favorite thing. All right. So, this week we're going to start it out with who is the worst voice package that you could assign to the checkout line. So the automated checkout line at the grocery stores. When I had originally kind of done a little poking around on the internet, not just for this, but I'd mentioned that, sometimes when you're going through a checkout line and you have the management trainee, translation bagger, bagging up your groceries, that our European counterparts, that was not a common thing to have somebody bagging your groceries for you. That you would commonly bag your own groceries. I'm wondering how much longer maybe the automated checkout line, where it's just a robot checking you out and you just bag your own stuff, has been a thing there for longer. But I put up a thread on my Facebook this week saying, who would be a terrible voice package for the checkout machine, and what would they say?
Can I go first?
Yeah, by all means.
Benicio
Now
del Toro's character in Last Jedi. He wouldn't even get anything out, and then he'd just like give up, and you'd be swiping the next item.
It's like, oh, in this situation, nobody wins. That was one of the funniest things that I brought out of The Last Jedi was when we came out of the theater, we were all kind of like, what the fuck just happened? And
everyone was shell-shocked.
Yeah. And Stefan was like, how'd you like Benicio del Toro? He was like, oh, you got to play both sides, kid. He didn't even have like a good stutter for what he did. He just like...
It was felt tacked on.
Yeah. And
even though I love
Stefan would just, to represent him stuttering, he'd just go, da-da-da-da.
It's pretty accurate.
So he'd be like, hey, you get that blueprint out of the bagging thing. You want paper or plastic?
Yeah. That is exactly. But yeah, Benicio del Toro from Last Jedi.
And put your discount codes. I'm the code breaker. My suggestion for it was Henry Rollins, just suggesting how this is such a luxury. We didn't have this back in my day. Back in my day, you actually had to talk to the person who was bagging your groceries.
Why don't you want to talk to people anymore? Think you're too good? Don't think you're good enough?
Same fucking punk rock. But the real goods came from the people. So Joe suggested Joe Pesci. You know, welcome to Walmart. Get your shit and get the fuck out. That's what he wrote. Josh wrote Justin Rollins' lemon grab voice. Unexpected item and Thomas wrote Fran Drescher.
Oh, God.
Like, oh, you're buying that?
Oh, no.
Is that kosher?
Oh, no.
Hey, come on. Check
Get
your
it out of the bagging area.
Check your coupon books for those dill pickles. Come on.
Oh, God.
He actually didn't have any rights. He just like anything in that obnoxious voice.
Yeah. God, The Nanny. What a terrible show.
I'm not old enough to remember that. I'm like old enough to remember adverts for it, but it was beyond what they were advertising. It was beyond my age group. I was so little. Kristen writes, that kid from Malcolm in the Middle in a wheelchair. Your squash is
Please put the item in the bagging area.
$2.22. Place like she wrote all of that out. That was a great suggestion. And then the weakest, but still kind of funny, Arnold. Get through the bagging area. Chill out, dickwad. For when you scan too fast. If it bleeds, we could bag it. For meat items, it's not a tumor. For anything that's not a tumor. So, thank you.
That was actually going to be the other one would just be like Samuel L. Jackson. Just like yelling motherfucker all the time.
Right?
You think it would be great, but the novelty would wear off real quick.
Right? It's like, who else? Maybe, it seems like a cheap shot, but Christopher Walken. I actually heard an interesting story.
How about Danzig sings to you while you bag?
Put your eyes in the bag.
Sorry, Danzig. We'll stop just punching you repeatedly in the stomach.
Oh, he is going to be our punching bag forever.
We know he has feelings too.
Now, I heard an interesting story about Dave Grohl.
Oh.
And Christopher Walken. I think it was SNL and Foo Fighters were playing on, and Christopher Walken was hosting. So Christopher Walken comes up to Dave Grohl and asks, where's the Evanses? on the emphasis on Foo Fighters. So Dave Grohl already knows where it's going. Yeah, it's like, ladies and gentlemen, Foo Fighters. Foo Fighters.
What is his accent even from?
Dude, from Christopher Walken land.
No, I know. Where's Christopher Walken get it from? Is there a place just magically
He's definitely
tucked away?
East Coast, I feel.
Is there just a place magically tucked away in the Maine wilderness? Just some off the beaten trail town where there's a population of 75 people and they all fucking talk like that.
But the thing is, Christopher Walken seems like an old man to us, but he's talked like that his entire career.
I know.
I mean, I think the earliest I can conjure him being in something is like a Bond villain or something like that.
Yeah. I get that. But somewhere there's a town or a group of people that also talk like him. Where is he from? Where are these other people?
Where did you learn to talk like you do? Apparently, Christopher Walken does not like to go fast. He doesn't like driving or being driven or being in a boat. Anything like he doesn't like being in vehicles. How does this guy get around to everything he does? I mean, he's kind of like successfully retired. I haven't seen him in anything recently.
He's from Queens.
I told you, East Coast, man.
But
East
not
Coast.
everyone in Queens talks like that.
Yeah, but that's why I was saying that Christopher Walken is his own thing.
I know. I was just secretly hoping there was a magical hamlet tucked away somewhere, and well, it would be full of people talking like Christopher
Hamlet of
Walken.
Chris. So I was struggling. I was just drawing from my pile of unread notes, and in order to bring them to the top so I didn't have to go through all my notes, I was just like bumping my own notes. I was just going through my notes and typing bump so it would go to this top of my cell phone notes. This one's called foot phobia. So you've heard of the foot fetish. Now it's time for the foot phobia. Being so phobic of your feet that you leave your socks on all the time. Even when you go, like when you're having sex, you know, that person that leaves their socks on when they're having sex, it's taboo. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, have you?
Yeah. I've heard, well, not obviously in my personal life, but I had an associate, a friend who said that was going to be his porno move. Was the
leaving the socks?
Yeah, tube socks, and he'd leave them slip down about halfway through the tube, so they'd be flopping off the end of his feet. And he was just like, he was all about the socks.
So he
on the
liked
feet.
that, huh? That seems like more like a sock and dangle fetish, something like that, than a phobia.
Or you hear the guys that say, "Well, I leave them on because my feet get cold." And you're just like,
Well, that's a common problem with the ladies, that their feet get cold. It's like a common trope that the ladies' feet are as cold as ice.
well, there's also just the trope of temperature-sensitive women.
Right. So this would be like you're so phobic of feet, you don't even want to look at your own feet, and you'd
So
be
you only get one pair of socks on that your grandmammy put on, and you move out of the house and you
they'd
never
be
get to.
thick. They'd be so thick you couldn't like see the wiggling of your toes. They'd just be like flippers. And
You better hope you find a good woman to replace your sock before it withers into nothing.
I can't look.
They're touching air. They're exposed. I know they.
So this came from the trope of accidentally leaving your socks on during sex, that you're so phobic of your feet and you find them so disgusting you just leave them on when you shower even.
At least they're clean, kind of.
I
I feel like you'd get one nasty case of trench foot,
right?
and
It's like, how'd you get gangrene? It's like, I fucking hate feet. And
well, they won't be a problem anymore, little Timmy, because now we get to chop them off. And then you get left with stubs. I feel like there's
that's how Henneman went out.
I feel like there's a Outer Limits, a Twilight Zone, a Treehouse of Terror, something where dude got his feet or cut his feet off because he was so disgusted by them. I feel like there's a reference made there somewhere.
So I think it was out of some of like the YouTube historians or just like fact things where they're trying to make content based on content that isn't out there. Talking about Quentin Tarantino and the foot fetish. Now, the
Are you trying to angle that this is all a ploy?
No. That just like went from a bit to like everybody's heard the story. Not everybody, but a lot of people have heard the story about how Quentin Tarantino has a foot fetish.
Yeah,
and
it's out there. Salma Hayek, we've talked about this before. It's shoving the old foot in his mouth. Oh,
yep. And from
Kill
Dusk
Bill.
Till Dawn, and then and Kill Bill having
5-minute toe wiggling.
Yeah, wiggle your big toe with Uma Thurman. Now he actually has the fucking power to, and he was under Harvey Weinstein at the time, and I'm not trying to say that he was like exploiting this shit, but they knew exactly what they were doing.
Drawing some parallels, I got you.
Well, I don't mean to do that. Like Quentin Tarantino is a fucking weird Frankenstein-looking man, and actually, that's what Burt Reynolds was doing when he died. He was on
that one movie. I forgot the name. Something. Hollywood,
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, about the Manson killings that Tarantino's doing.
Fascinating stuff.
I have heard it presented that the part of your brain that associates like things that are pleasurable is very close to like motor control for your feet. Something like that. And that's one of the reasons that like a foot fetish.
Man, you just get a couple wires crossed. It goes from boobs to butt to feet.
Right. It there's varying degrees of fetishism, but that one's fairly common. Like it's so common that you don't just like, oh, that's fucking gross. Like, yes, it's gross to you if you're not into it. And
you trying to tell me like
feet? No, dude, I fucking think feet are gross. Gross. But it is so common that it's not like, oh, that's your fucking thing. Like you like fucking standing upside down, doing a keg stand and listening to fucking like
U2. Yeah.
Oh man, speaking of U2, there was a thread that went up about Apple making, they're going to make a car. So
and
they would be like, what
YouTube
are the features? Yeah, they were going to be like, what is the features of the car? So a lot of them was like, you're going to have to buy an adapter for your gas nozzle. There's going to be a headphone jack in the radio. And one of those things was like all of a sudden U2 will show up in the backseat of your car and do a live performance for you one day.
That'd be an ad that they're going to do for it.
Now, I had seen another thread, and this is one of my comments on it. The thread didn't end up taking off, and it wasn't from me. Somebody had presented the Human 2.0 is about to come out. What are the new features? My suggestion was they are making us slimmer, but they're condensing everything down to one hole in order to make that possible. Kind of like how Apple got rid of the headphone jack and did everything in the Thunderbolt jack.
So we're just slender men?
Yeah, but we only have one hole. I don't know if it's the mouth or the butthole.
That's the thing. It's one hole and it does all the functions.
Now that would be appropriate if we had to like get an adapter for our old functions, and it was called the dongle, and we had to put it in the butt.
Oh.
Can you think?
Person.
You think of any new human features that you would like to see? I'd like to see gills.
Yeah.
Kevin Costner
too. With a little Waterworld action.
Yeah.
I could go for that. I could go for. Well,
we speaking Waterworld, we could just.
I honestly just picture Human 2.0 ending up like fucking Mr. Potato Head.
Right? It's modular.
Yeah. Just like, oh, I need a new pair of lips today.
But that'd be another hole. How would you attach it? Just be magnetic? I was thinking we'd have a recycling system so we could just turn our urine into coffee immediately.
It's sterile.
And we like the taste. That was actually an old Dana Carvey bit talking about Waterworld when it first came out. He was doing George Bush talking about what a failure Waterworld was. And he was like, you don't pee in a Mr. Coffee and get Taster's Choice.
Oh, man. That guy.
Dude, he is such a great stand-up, and he's done it like before, during, and after his SNL career. But that's like where everybody knows him. And he was so renowned for that period in his life that nobody knows anything about like what he did. Like there's people who know, but the vast majority of people only know him from Saturday Night Live. They know him as Garth. They know him as the church lady. Yeah. They know him as the characters that he would play.
And most people here would know him from Master. Most people in today's day and age would remember him from Master in Disguise.
The biggest failure fucking ever. That was crazy, though.
He just went underground after that, right?
That was his... Well, he was sick. He got sick. I don't know what his like health issue was, but he had a sketch comedy show that he was trying to bring out called The Dana Carvey Show. ABC bought it.
Oh, did you just watch the documentary?
I had watched it a couple months ago.
It's funny.
Now, that's where Steve Carell and Steve Colbert got discovered. Yeah. And nobody thinks of that show as where they got their starts.
No, because no one remembers it because it went for like half a season, almost like 6 episodes.
It went for its like full first season.
Then it was done. It was so out there. It would have been a hit today. If you put it on, if it had been on Adult Swim, it would have been a hit.
Well, that was the
way
thing.
Ahead of its time.
They had interviews in the documentary about it. They were interviewing Bill Hader. And he was professing about watching at the time and just saying, this is what I've been waiting for. I taped every single episode of it, and I guess they actually did cancel it, so they didn't get the last episode because he, at the time, knew that this could not last long.
Yeah, it was...
And he was like a young man
because they were given full creative reins, and it went so off the rails, and people were just like reining in, and they just gave him the middle fingers, just like, yeah, told us we can do whatever we want. We're going to do whatever we want. I think the first episode had Bill Clinton milking... dogs out of Baltimore. No, he was feeding babies out of like 6 nipples.
It was Bill Clinton saying, I've divorced Hillary, but I can be the mother of the nation. Look, I've gotten all these tits installed.
Yeah.
And he was like feeding wildlife off of his like tits.
Yep. Squirting milk all over.
And even they said in the documentary that was probably the wrong one to open with. but the real...
the guy that did Triumph the Comic Dog was a writer on
Dave Schmeigel.
Yeah.
I think that's his first name.
They were stacked.
Schmeigel was also a writer for Saturday Night Live. But one of the reasons that it failed was because ABC... had picked them up. They actually didn't get picked up by ABC. They shopped it around to some networks, and ABC was the one that they decided to go with.
They put them right after Tool Time.
No.
Or Home Improvement.
Yes, they did do that, but Disney bought ABC in that era. Like, before they decided to go with ABC. And then, one of the things that demonstrated why it failed the most was an actual aired advertisement from ABC where it was an advert for Home Improvement, because none of them really watched Home Improvement. Yeah, it's like, I don't want to die, Dad, and Tim Allen's just like,
I love you, son. Yeah.
Oh, I love you. I'm not gonna let anything happen to you. And then followed by the Dana Carvey brought to you by Mountain Dew Comedy Hour.
Yeah.
And Stephen Colbert they put like everybody who was on that show and just played that back to them and just captured their reactions. And they're just like,
no,
no, they're like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like, you can't write comedy this funny.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. I loved that. The documentary was called Too Funny to Fail.
Yeah, Too Funny to Fail.
And it was great. Although if you don't want to watch Steve Carell cry, you might not want to watch it. He cries in his interview tape. It was really funny too. Dana Carvey and everyone was like, I don't even know how we hired him.
It was kind of funny because Steve Carell and Steve Colbert were both...
Or I think it was Colbert. I forgot. One of them was crying in their audition tape. And they were just like, I don't really remember why we hired him.
It wasn't actual crying. He was like, he had just had a baby and it's like, I have to feed my daughter.
Yeah. I don't remember which one it was. I think it was Stephen Colbert. I don't recall.
All right. You want bodily functions or technology?
I'd just like to say that Dana Carvey totally went underground after the collapse of Master of Disguise and then his illnesses. But
he did a stand-up special, like a recent one on Netflix. It wasn't that great though. It kind of felt a little out of touch.
He has 3 bullets out of after that.
Yeah. It's great.
What did you want? Bodily functions or
technology?
Technology.
All right. It's called Guy-Fi, and this is wireless access to Flavortown, wherever you want. It replaces Wi-Fi, and you could just get greasy food wherever. Like I'm thinking like replicator tech.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of going. Just like, I'd like a thing of chili fries. Men's mass would increase worldwide.
You would have a hologram doctor like Voyager, but it's Guy Fieri.
Oh boy. Okay. That I was not prepared for.
And the thing originally, yeah, but you could also go in reverse. The Guy Fieri eating things in reverse trope, and just you'd be eating and eating and eating. It's like, oh, I need to make myself stop, and then they just start like playing Guy Fieri eating in reverse in front of you, but it would look so real. You'd just be like, oh.
And then he'd give it to you. He'd uneat the chili fries and then give them to you.
Now, does that qualify as like a mother bird chewing its food first if it's in reverse like that?
I don't know, because he's not real.
But the doctor from Voyager was real enough. How did he become so like real that they respected him like another human and he was Voyager completely unhinged?
Well, at first it starts with
now,
he's an
keep
emergency.
in mind, let's try and revert this back to Guy Fieri being disgusting anytime we can.
I was going to go on a Star Trek rant there.
No, like I was going to say, continue on your
the doctor from Voyager actually starts in Deep Space Nine. A doctor comes to Deep Space Nine to get Julian Bashir, the doctor of that series' information because he's such a successful doctor, and he's actually, it turns out, a genetically modified human, so he's a superhuman. So that doctor...
Would you like to know more?
That doctor generates a program based on Julian Bashir's experiences on Deep Space Nine and scientific and medical
Is that written
career.
in Deep Space Nine?
Yes. And the doctor that comes will end up playing the doctor in Voyager because he programs himself to be the emergency holographic doctor on ships, which is only supposed to operate for brief stints of time.
This is kind of reminding me of Nu Young Soong creating Data. I am imagining Guy Fieri being Nu Young Soong and then creating another Guy Fieri in his image. So there's like...
I picture just having a really shittily opening, like Nutcracker style mouth, just like, feed me food, give me more flavor to analyze. So this doctor...
Oh, you're still going off that. I was trying to expand on... I imagine Guy Fieri as just a not Guy Fieri's personality anymore. He is just, I can cook you, or I have a wealth of knowledge, an inhuman wealth of knowledge on terrible things that only humans would like.
Can I just change Guy Fieri's programming to be Elzar from Futurama? Bam! Bam!
I feel like he would take offense to that. Maybe, Elzar could maybe be lore. To be like kind of the opposite of him. He's like has a little class, but he's still like really impulsive.
Brash.
All right. We're reaching for that one. Yeah, fucking Guy-Fi. You gotta read?
It was actually something I had thought up over the way here, and it's kind of fizzled a little bit. So I got a little bit distracted.
Hey, you said yes, so shoot.
I'm going to need a second. If you got another one, I'm going to need a second because it kind of fizzled.
Well, we can't be like focusing on, two different things. Kind of have to like put the full energy into like what we're... You didn't have it written down or anything?
No, because I thought of it on the way here and I was driving.
Okay. I have buying a nuke on the black market. So this is the modern age, It's the age of convenience. So you order your nuke on the black market. And
some bitcoins.
Yeah. You get it. It's like IKEA instructions in a kit.
With just like uranium in a glass jar or something.
It would be a lead container that's like 80 pounds, and then your enriched uranium is in it. And that would be 80% of the package, kind of like Amazon does. They ship you these fucking boxes
of mostly air.
Yeah. And then you open it up, and you're expecting, maybe this is just one piece or whatever. And you start getting like all of this other stuff, and it's just a kit to put your missile together. And you would get so far into it, you'd expose yourself to the nuclear radiation just to find out you're missing the firing pin at the end. Because whenever you put together a piece of IKEA furniture, there's always something fucking missing. Or there's always somebody who claims there's something missing, and they're just too fucking stupid to put the thing together in the first place.
Yeah.
You just have a nuclear-powered ashtray afterwards.
It just evaporates or eliminates the ash as you put it in.
I actually watched this thing earlier this week. This is completely... Like, I wrote this thing a couple weeks ago. I was watching something about a lesser-known nuclear disaster in Russia, and I forget the name of the lake, but there was basically a bunch of, like, nuclear enrichment facilities in Russia and nuclear test sites that were in central Russia, maybe 1,000 miles east of Moscow, just in the open tundra. And they had these facilities set up to, make nuclear material and generate nuclear power, but they didn't have an understanding of how nuclear material worked. You've heard of Marie Curie, right?
Yeah.
She tragically died
from all the exposure to the radiation that she was studying.
Because they didn't know that you couldn't touch the substance. Yeah. And
Which is, on it, strangely enough, reminds me of a couple stories I read. There was two. One involved that atomic age that they went through.
Mm-hmm.
like a toy
they meaning Russia?
No, the world went through like an atomic age.
They meaning us.
Yeah, the U.S. I remember it was a toy manufacturer. It might have even been Milton Bradley, but they sold uranium, like chemical kits that were shortly discontinued because people were getting sick.
There was bits of glass from the United States nuclear test sites that people would take because the heat was so
This
hot.
right here.
It just turned the sand into glass.
1950s uranium toy kit. This was it.
That is fucking far out.
And I also read because I found this story some time ago, but there was another story attached to it where it was a young boy created a nuclear reactor in his shed, and the FBI was just like, we're detecting large amounts of radiation out here, and they go check it out. It's just like, this kid has a goddamn nuclear reactor.
That's
in his
kind of the
shed.
scary thing, is if you have the materials, it's not really that hard to do. So we're like 3 stories removed into this one. Let's dig through them. We need the content. Back to the U.S. one, there was this substance that they had a name for that was basically glass from the blasts in the nuclear test sites. It's still out there to this day, but it's very much so illegal to take anything from any kind of tourism that goes to these. They've determined the amount of time it's safe for you to be a tourist, be exposed to these sites, because it's still very radioactive.
Just like Chernobyl stuff.
Yep.
You can't, well, it's a lot better there now because of how much time has passed, but
not only that, the construction efforts that's gone into that. That's another layer of the story that we'll go into. So let's finish this one layer.
The onion just keeps growing.
All right. Nuclear energy is just something that interests me very much so.
Half-lives and all that.
Just the potential for energy and the disaster that comes with it. So there's basically this glass substance that they took from radioactive test sites back in the 40s and the 50s.
Yeah.
And
the atomic age.
They were literally selling it on pieces of jewelry.
Wear this. This is sure to wow your husband. He'll be puking.
There's a name for it, but
He'll be queasy with excitement.
there was it's like a glass that's green in hue, and it's radioactive enough that it will make you sick over time. So back to the original Russian story, there is a network of rivers and lakes, and they had nuclear facilities that were just dumping nuclear waste into these river systems. They didn't understand that this is something that lingers. It doesn't just get diluted. And just because they didn't necessarily understand the flow of the rivers and where everything was
into the ground and yada yada yada, you're looking at
there was one lake in particular that became so toxic that to this day, I think you can't stand at the shore for more than an hour. It's more radioactive than Chernobyl. And by to this day, that's kind of not true, because basically they moved in I think it was 1957. If you can find the name of this, they moved into this area and basically told everybody you have to evacuate because there was a network of underground nuclear waste disposal things. It took like natural water flow and brought it over these, and one of them basically dried up, and then one of them exploded and released a bunch of nuclear material into the air. And this wasn't even like the kind of response time that they had at Chernobyl, because by the time Chernobyl happened, they really understood the severity of what was happening when you have a plume of nuclear material released into an area and what exposure does to people. This was something, it happened, and then maybe a week later, people started getting sick, livestock started dying. They told people it was because of some sort of...
500,000 people were irradiated by this
500,000 people were... It is insane how many people were exposed to it and continued to be exposed to it, because in the immediate area, they evacuated the people. But there was a larger area that was affected that they didn't understand, and people continued to live there for a very long time.
Now, between 1978 and 1986, and following a drought in the region, it's slowly been being filled by hollow concrete blocks.
That's what I was going to say. It's at this point, it is filled with concrete, but
it is a flat concrete surface and a dry nuclear storage.
They basically let the they hoped that it would just go away over time, and at the end of it, they realized that once the lake dried out, all this nuclear sediment would just be left there. And all they needed was a dust storm or a windstorm, which actually happened.
Yep.
A storm came through there and kicked up all this dust and irradiated the area again. So they just decided to fill the area in with concrete, which, honestly, that's what happened and led to the response of Chernobyl, which is why Chernobyl wasn't such... It was a disaster, but it wasn't as big of a disaster as it could have been, because they had already gone through this. They kind of knew the metrics of it. And that's what led to the most recent effort at Chernobyl. They, I think they called it the sarcophagus.
For the Chernobyl?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
They put a structure over the Chernobyl reactor just to contain it, but that started to decay just through the sands of time. That thing started to fall apart, and they realized that this shit is even worse than this disaster. And if we don't do something to contain the collapsing of this building, that's going to kick up so much nuclear sediment that it's going to basically create a plume like the original disaster had. So they created this huge dome.
Yeah,
it is insane.
Trying to get a picture of it here.
And they didn't just build the dome over the site. They built it far enough away, and I'm not talking about like
I don't see
thousands of miles or anything.
I don't see it being called sarcophagus, but it seems like an apt
I'm pretty sure that's what it was called.
This is kind of what the facility looks like.
This is this just within the last decade, I believe, went into place.
I had seen it on a Exploring Chernobyl documentary that they had recently, because you can go here and visit. And
right.
It's eerie, and maybe a glimpse into what the nuclear age could have brought, or what our future will bring when it's just a showing of what happens when humans aren't around. What happens.
And
but
honestly,
this had been completed by the time they had showed it.
It's not as bad as you would think. Like, wildlife has reclaimed the area, and
almost completely.
There's certain breeds of animals that are like thriving there that don't anywhere else.
They've actually brought in, I believe, some horses into the area too, that were endangered
Bring that picture back up.
I want to say it was some sort of Mongolian breed. It was on a documentary I watched, which unfortunately I don't recall the name of, but they reintroduced some horses, and they're having wildlife that is usually endangered return to the area. So it's like a little, what's that called?
Reserve?
Yeah.
Basically what happened with the construction of this building, this Superdome. It's the Minnesota Superdome.
Yeah.
What they did is they constructed this building in two halves, and then
Slid them over the top.
slid them together. They constructed them far enough away, like maybe, like several thousand meters, because when you're talking about that degree of nuclear contamination, that minute degree of distance matters for exposure. So they had the workers build these things separately and then slide them together. So when the building that was initially constructed to seal this thing up collapses,
I wonder how many
it
fit up
contains
issues
the
they
dust.
had. I can't imagine them having a seamless build. I imagine there had been some fit up.
There is a wicked documentary about them constructing it and putting the thing together. And there's also this arm inside of it that is designed to help them manipulate the structure underneath
Like a
and
big
help
overhead
clean
crane.
it up.
Pretty cool stuff.
Wow, we went from comedy to nuclear disaster, my fucking favorite. I actually really am just fascinated by the Chernobyl incident. That shit is just so fascinating to me. Like, some people's gig is, serial killers and murder porn.
Chernobyl for you?
Yeah, Chernobyl, when I found out about that incident, I was like, wow, that is just so fascinating how, like, deadly that is, and just human ingenuity having to deal with this.
Well, what did we have in the U.S.? The Long Beach Island disaster?
3 Mile Island.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. That stems straight from my interest of it.
Yep.
That's why I dug into that. Let's take a break, being we went so far off the rails into Chernobyl.
I remembered my suggestion box, so.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that one before we shove off into
This is more
music.
of a description of a sketch, because I was envisioning on my way back from that burger place eating my onion rings, a guy basically aggressively drives and then gets stuck at the light next to you. You pull up.
Mm-hmm.
Both have your windows down. Get into a small verbal disagreement. Guns it. And both get stuck in the next light together. Look at each other. Some animosity.
This motherfucker.
Yeah, you go again. Get stuck at the next light. I had food with me at the time. I was like, it'd be funny though if I just offered this guy just like, you want some French fries? You want some food? And then he takes it, or I'm feeding him from my car into his.
And you know what? He'd just be like, fuck you, motherfucker.
This is actually pretty good.
There was actually a video of a man breaking up an altercation and then giving each party a slice of pizza.
Whopper or something.
It was a slice of pizza. He happened to be coming out of it was in front of a peach joint.
And then it was pineapple, and they both turned on him. Even
Are
though
you
I love
at
pineapple.
yeah,
I love pineapple.
What the
pizza.
fuck is the deal with everybody hating on pineapple
I don't
pizza?
know. I like it, especially if you get there's a place called the Roman Candle in Fox Point, and they make a Maui Wowie pineapple pizza. It's got like a spicy sauce over the top.
I've honestly
great.
never really had a pizza that I really hated, except for that pizza that we ordered, which one day
The gross pizza?
we had pizza coupons from a local joint, which you could get 6 toppings on 2 pizzas.
We made the grossest pizza
So we made a
possible.
meat pizza of 6 toppings of meat, and then just a pizza with
gross thing.
every gross, like sauerkraut,
Baby shrimp.
olives, anchovies.
Baby shrimp was on there too.
So it wasn't that bad at first.
Spoiled the next day.
Yeah, but I don't know if I trust you about like the spoiled thing. Because
No, it was you gagged when you tried to eat it.
yeah, I'm thinking it was just like all the fumes of just the nasty stuff really like permeating, kind of.
It fermented inside the container.
The thing is with you, Stefan, I will have a doggy bag from the place I just ate, and I'll set it on the counter. I'll set it on top of your fridge so the dog doesn't fucking eat it. And then you'll just be like, yeah, you should put that in the fucking fridge so it doesn't spoil. And I'm just like, dude, it'll be fine.
I didn't do
I
that
just
to you
want
last
to eat
time.
it. And then I ended up eating it, and I ended
I
up
didn't even
like
do that to
surviving.
you last time. I just thought I was like, oh, you already ate yours. And he was like, no, it's on top of the fridge.
And then you offered me yours because you're full of tots. It was hot out.
Yeah, I didn't want my tots.
We're just panting watching Quartermain on Hulu.
Terrible movie. But no, it had spoiled. The anchovy had seeped into the bread. It was unedible.
Now, I want to order it again and just see what happens. Because I actually have a Petri dish for a fridge. That's kind of where that stems from, is that putting things in my fridge, you're more likely to gain the infection than you are to just
I can't say
leave it out.
with the smell coming out of there.
All right. Let's take a little break, and we'll BRB with some music reviews. Do you like music? We like music too.
You punk.
Do you like waffles?
Do you like music, punk?
So, welcome to the weekly Radio Loud Music Review, where we have drastically different tastes in music, even when it comes to metal.
Yep.
Which is kind of crazy. You know, people usually blanket that shit together. But
different.
When I think of metal, and when you think of metal,
It's different.
you think of how to torture people. And I
Think of aliens.
I think of stuff that's so dense that
Sardines.
it's not really all that easy to comprehend almost. So this week I didn't pick any metal actually.
You picked techno artist Pogo.
I wouldn't even consider him.
He's an
Techno.
electronic musician, and he uses sound samples from
Now,
movies and video games or whatever else. Well, all the stuff I saw was movie bits. So he'll basically pick a movie or a TV show, because I know him from the Star Trek one.
Interesting way to perceive it, which isn't wrong. What I view him as, what makes him strike a note in my heart, and that's one of the things, like, I'm not super into Pogo. Like, I don't listen to Pogo in my car. And what I've been trying to do with these music reviews is to do something with a bit of a fresh perspective going into it. Because we were kind of really in a habit of drawing from the well of things we're familiar with. And that's not fucking interesting, you know? Generally, I've been almost leaving my music reviews to like the last minute. But recently, me and Stefan, just to drive conversation, have been pitching our music picks at the beginning of when we stop filming this episode. Over the next few days, we pitch each other our ideas, and then we both kind of digest each other's picks throughout the next week, so we have more conversation. This just happened to fall into my lap because Pogo published a new song, which I felt was drastically different from a lot of his
the one you sent
other
me?
material. What was that?
That wasn't the one you sent me, was it?
I sent you Red Rum, I think.
Yep.
That was something he published within this last week, which was based on Stanley Kubrick's classic, The Shining.
Hence Red Rum. I mean,
Yep.
if you haven't seen the movie at this point, you're not going to.
So what Pogo does is he doesn't just take movies or media. He takes nostalgia and creates these bits of music. That it's sample-based music.
But it's all from, what I was meant to say was it's all from one piece. Mm-hmm. Like the Shining thing.
The Shining piece was one
condensed
Shining
clips
piece.
only from The Shining. He doesn't bring in outside things.
But he takes samples from just one bit of media and puts them into a song. But the thing that I feel like transcends the piece of media he picks is that he's really adding something to it. He's creating a new piece of music that you can really get into. But it's also injecting that nostalgia into it. And it's not just nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. It's almost like a reimagining of like some of the elements that went into the original thing. What he's been really popular for is some of the Disney stuff, because Disney is
just wildly successful. I don't know where that came from. I don't know how they got so wildly successful.
Nazi gold. Disneyland. It's the theme park that they built that we would all be doing every Sunday night if the Nazis won the war.
Yep.
That's where Disney got his success. Let me just say I'm not a Disney fan. There's a lot
Blaskowitz, we need you. They've invaded.
There's a lot of good things that came from Disney as part of like pop culture, but just like the base Disney stuff, the musical shit, I'm just not into that. But a lot of people are. Yep. Like a lot of people love it. So that's where you kind of got his, not the first stuff that he did, but the first stuff he got really popular for.
Yeah, and he probably made it with that intention of people like Disney.
Now, I don't know about that because
Disney's musically inclined.
He might have had that strategy behind him, but one of the videos that I really like about Pogo from the last year is that he has a 10-minute video just outlining his process, nothing to do with his traditional music. He just talks about his process and advice if you are just looking to get into music. Because, to be honest, he's been extremely successful, and he's been afforded the opportunity to branch out and try new projects. And he talks about that and talks about how you might not want to do that. He starts out in this video by talking about if you want to make music, you should take a look at if it's your passion or if you have a business plan for it. Because he had a passion for it, and he just kind of got popular for it. And then when he started to go into the business side of it, he kind of realized...
He was unprepared?
Not unprepared. Like,
or just it was a different
he got
side?
popular and got money kind of thrown at him just through doing what he likes. He's one of the rare artists that get to do that. There's a lot of artists who get to do that, but it's rare that that happens. He talks about how if you make something, let's say this podcast, for instance, one of the things that I really don't like about it is having to seek external gratification. And that's how he puts it. It's not that you're essentially after external gratification for it.
Just whore yourself out there.
But you absolutely...
Drop those pants and just whore yourself out on the corner.
If you want to make some money or bring your exposure past just what
you got to get out in the intersection with the sign that says...
You have to get out there. You have to fucking get down on your knees and start pleasing Jesus, okay?
You got to get out in the corner with that cardboard sign and say, follow me on...
Highway 9.
We'll pleasure your ears for trip to Highway 9.
One of the things that made him realize this was that he obviously was successful in his own right. So why would he have to do this? He started a Kickstarter campaign to go to a different country and film some, film stuff. I don't know the details about it, but I know he basically took a bunch of other people's money and he put it as, once I did this, I could hear the people tapping on their watches, expecting me to get something done and putting their own views of what the project that they paid for should be. And I really thought that was a great way of putting, when you pay somebody to do something, you
Need to
expect
deliver.
something.
Or they expect you to deliver
Yeah.
something, yeah.
So
Because that's how
business works.
that's how the market's supposed to work. I pay you for goods and services.
So
Like being a whore.
right.
Pogo. Do what I'm paying you for. Oh, that was the masses.
So he did this video about his writing process before he even got to the nitty gritty of how do you write songs like me? What is my process like? The first thing he talked about was start out doing things for yourself, things that you love to do, and create from the heart. Kind of like a little Disney movie story. And I really appreciate that because I feel like where he started creating his music from came from a genuine
Desire.
place. Yeah. And that's what I feel like Pogo sells in a lot of his, not music, but the videos that go along with the music. Pogo has albums, but if you sit down and listen to a
I think
Pogo
he has
album,
2 though.
dude, he has 8.
Really?
He has a bunch of albums.
Okay, he does. Okay,
I feel like,
he's got 7 albums and a ton of
yeah.
EPs.
but the thing is, when I picked my pick as Pogo, I was like, he doesn't so much have an album as he has a body of work. And I tend to feel like a Pogo album does not feel like a Pogo music video and song and video that goes along with it.
I mean, he did the Captain Jean-Luc, right?
Yeah.
That was my first exposure.
Right, because I
was a-
sent it to
it
you
was a
and I was
beautiful
like,
thing.
this thing makes me feel so good. And it goes back to what he is creating. He is making...
Did you send it to me? I thought I was watching that in high school. That's old.
No, that's not that old. That's like a year old.
Really? I thought me and
No,
Aaron
no.
knew-
Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise, that's not Pogo.
Oh, the other, I don't remember the other one.
No, you're thinking of Data and Picard. You know, the "Come cheer up, my lads, come cheer up, my lads."
Oh, no. I was
He-
thinking that it was a completely different song.
But that's what he does. That's what he takes bits of nostalgia from things that people have watched and is beloved, and then he creates this piece of media that just brings it all swelling back to you in this just flood of emotion and reinterpretation. It just makes you feel good.
I like the warm, fuzzy feeling that Pogo gives you.
I didn't before because he was doing exclusively Disney things. So the first thing that really turned me on to this guy as I'm going to subscribe to this guy, I'm going to watch what this guy cranks out, was a song called Data and Picard, where he takes 2 songs that each character sings in the actual episodes.
Then
He even prefaces the episode. This is one of the few Pogo videos where he actually puts himself in front of a green screen and dresses up as the characters. He is in a Star Trek uniform. He paints himself like Data. He doesn't shave himself bald like Jean-Luc because that would just be, asinine. But he starts it out as back in my days at the Academy, before every toast, we'd sing a song.
And then
They sing the song. And that just brought me back to days where, you and myself
Yeah, I got
were
some-
sitting on the couch
watching Next Gen.
watching Next
Nailing
Gen.
the percussion on the intro there.
And his latest
Here's the
song
pictures.
that came out this week. Yeah. Now, the thing is, look at these shots. This is how the music video looks. He looks like he's lit like the background. That's just in front of a green screen
That's
in
just
his
good,
place.
That's
He
just
looks
good
like
lighting.
he's right in it.
because they have very strong overhead lighting.
So what prompted me to pick him was he came out this week with Red Rum. I just got a push notification on my phone. It's like, oh, Pogo came out with a new song. This was something much darker than I'd ever seen because it was based on The Shining. And it was very clever the way he, I'm a slut for Aphex Twin and breakbeats, stuff like that. He basically made like this more rapid breakbeat, dark song.
With the rapid taps and the axe and the...
Yeah, he had Jack Nicholson with the camera underneath him tapping on the door.
Yep.
Just like, that's where he took his like little percussive... like him pounding on it for the bass and then just tapping his fingers for all the other drums. I thought it was very, very cleverly done. Much more evil than his body of Disney work. Just imagine me.
Yeah,
as
because
like,
how dark can you make Disney?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to say about Pogo.
I enjoyed it. I totally thought that he did.
What did you check out to, kind of do your research? Because I just left it open-ended. I was just like, Pogo.
I kind of just had it playing in the background when I was doing some stuff.
Now, I have to admit, like, a lot of his stuff is kind of similar. Like, the way he chops up his samples is similar. But he does his similar, like, sample chopping, but writes different tonalities of song.
Let's see. I kind of just had it on... Don't stop.
Yep, can't do that.
Yep.
Nope.
I had it just on...
Oh, you just put like a...
I played the Red Rum when you
playlist.
sent me, and then it just kind of went. So I definitely heard Happy. And then I must have been stuck on Ascend. I must have just been listening to the Ascend album.
So if there is... if there's any songs I could tell the listeners to check out, it's Data and Picard, Red Rum, and from The Odd Couple.
Can you spell that, please?
Go back to the Pogo's page there. It's...
I've heard the groove. FMAA.
Yeah, that's one that older folks could get into. Like, I think if I showed my dad I wouldn't need to explain anything to him.
I've heard
he would just know
Trumpular.
exactly what it is. It's Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau as the original Odd Couple.
I've seen Trumpular previously. I guess I was stuck on his album Ascend for most of this.
All right, Stefan.
That clocks in at a whopping hour, 40 minutes.
Let's talk about your pick this week.
So my pick was... I want to make sure I get to... I think they're from Ukraine.
Yeah, I didn't really get much from their history because most of it was in foreign language.
They're from Poland, it looks like.
Oh, it was close. I was guessing Russia, but... no. So what is it, Stefan?
Batashuka is a atmospheric black metal band that takes almost all of their influence and sample from Eastern Orthodox or Russian Orthodox choirs and church styles.
Now, yeah, I definitely loved that about it, is that they have these overarching ambiences going on
It's
behind
very...
them.
It's very... In the same way that a choir or chanting works, it's very more trance, or it more drives you into a trance or like a daze-like state, and then you go through it. But I really wanted to talk more about how this band kind of came out of nowhere when they first started. So remember, you've heard of the band Ghost? They have that little black mask, like
Yeah, and
light rocker type feeling going.
I didn't think that was going to come up this quickly, but when I looked to images of the band, yeah, it's just masked,
This band,
candles,
Yeah.
theatrics.
I have some pictures of the band here.
So they're kind of presented as cultish.
a cultist black mass style type deal, which arguably is not necessarily out of the realm of most black metal type things. But the thing with this band is when they first released, the release came out of nowhere. It was just pre-order this. It's coming out. They quickly got signed to Metal Blade.
But they had to have a deal already going if they already
none of the
had
members
that
were
kind
disclosed.
of right.
It said it would ship in a large wooden crate with a vinyl, an album, T-shirt, all this other stuff. A couple people got the pre-orders. They never got their pre-orders. They were getting boxes with garbage in them, supposedly. This is what I read online. Now, I bought a T-shirt some time ago. I got my stuff quite fine, and also shipped from Poland. I didn't have any issues with it. So I didn't have any issues with that. But then people were saying that the samples were taken from a Russian Orthodox just stock album that you could purchase off Amazon. There was a lot of drama going on that this was simply an endeavor by these musicians who, when it came out who they were, their previous metal bands being drastic, not being good, not being able to go anywhere, but just showing that we can easily do a commercial endeavor that will draw a viewer base, which wasn't untrue. They're successfully touring with actually a couple bands right now on the East Coast, and they got signed by Metal Blade, and their music isn't overly complicated in any way whatsoever.
But the thing is, being their masked individuals coming out of nowhere with the kind of media machine behind them to get people to pre-order and buy, they had to have been somebody that had done something already to prove to whoever was behind this to make the investment that they could pull this off. And this initial part of the mystery had to be part of an investment for them to build this kind of repertoire behind them. But it had to have been somebody that knew what they were doing.
Now
before.
the main members of the band have since been identified. The vocalist, I can't do their names right now. They're under pseudonym on. They're under pseudonym on Metallum, but Bart, Durf, and Jotso.
like fucking Goog from Mudvayne.
Yeah. So, just as a reminder, this album came out in like 2015. But Bart, the singer, was in a band from 1994 to 2008 called Herm. Overall, you're going to find terrible reviews on it. It was a terrible band, according to most review sources. I've tried to listen to it. It was not for me. Their guitar and bassist, the guy that plays the 8-string BC Rich for some reason, I don't know your thoughts on that. I don't think he needs that much.
I didn't delve that far. I didn't feel like diving that far into this band was that necessary.
Yeah. I don't know if he even really necessarily needs that, but he only had one band before that named Heurisys. They dropped one album. And then,
now, was that the V-style BC Rich, or was that like the BC Rich?
This one.
Rich.
He's got this big boy.
Okay, yeah, I thought that's what it was.
He's got this massive.
You know, sometimes you should just leave it on the Google image.
Yeah, you got that right. But then they have their drummer who's been in 2 bands, In Extremis and Altercated. I don't know much of those bands. So I mean, yeah, you're right. They have some previous musical experience, but it was a drop, man. It came out of almost nowhere, to my recollection of the history of it. And overall, I think it's pretty wildly enjoyed, or not wildly, but overall, I think it's enjoyed. My question is more how the next release is going to go, because
when was this released again?
2015.
So it's fairly new.
Yeah, but then almost immediately after it dropped, they got the signature to Metal Blade, so there's got to be another album coming out here at some point. But my main question is how that's going to go.
That I was thinking about this.
It's such a novelty.
I was thinking about this earlier about people who write music and then people who do like a medium like this, because I've done both now. It's so much harder to write music, and the amount of it's classically been talked about is how there's no money left in music anymore, you know? And looking at the body of content and how long it is, you know, we're doing, not that we're making any money on this, but there are a lot of people who are doing, you know, an hour at the minimum to 3 hours, multiple times a week in this kind of format. Whereas in a album, you have to put so much thought into writing a piece of music for a half hour even.
Now, with this band touring, I'm sure they don't use this full ensemble for the recording, but there's 11 people on tour for this, with the choir, the drums, the singer.
Is it
the
really
guitarist.
bringing in the numbers for that? Jesus.
I don't know, but it reminds me of when this first started out, people were like, I didn't get anything in my pre-order box, yada, yada, yada. Now, I don't know if those are necessarily authenticated things that happen, but it kind of, when I heard about this, the size of the band, I was like, is this like a Polka King type scam where it's just like, it's like, guys, we're going to do it big. And they're just, it's almost a scam off the top.
The thing is,
probably not.
I would think not, because
especially with their on Metal Blade now.
The choir, you originally said it was from an album that you could buy for, you know, samples.
Rumor had.
Rumor.
I can't confirm any of that stuff. I've only seen it around. Yeah, rumor has it.
I would think that those people would be hired and fired as needed, because you're not going to be paying that many people throughout the entire body of the work. As business is business, I would think those extra slots would be filled and unfilled as quickly as possible.
I'm trying to see how many people are there. I think it's actually 8 people touring. That's still a sizable amount of people.
Yeah,
to be dragging around on a
like
tour.
Periphery was doing 6.
That's a ton.
That's a lot of people.
But with rumors and all this other stuff, and obviously the drive seemingly, and I accept towards a commercial and theatrical more style performance, I accept that. What did you actually think of the album?
Of the album, well, I said unfortunately I didn't make it all the way through, but I liked the chants. Like, out of all the stuff that I liked the way it was put together, but I liked the chants the most of all. And from what you had made it sound like, they didn't even write that. I thought it was cool as part of the sound aesthetic.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I have a feeling it's not, because the rumors that were substantiated around it were just like, well, I had my Zapster. What's the thing that detects songs? I have one on my phone, but there's an app program.
Oh, Shazam.
Yeah, it's like, I had my Shazam open and it linked me to this. But other people have tried to replicate that, and that, from what I read online, and that's not 100% true. But I thought I'd stoke some fire under the table just to make things interesting.
It seems like there's a lot of things that are surrounding this band's narrative that maybe were intentionally put there to create disillusion, which in this era, it's not that uncommon. Like in the more exciting narratives of horror, it's no longer done in books. It's kind of done online. And it's kind of done in a way where it's pitched to people, is this real or is this not? Until they realize, oh, this is actually somebody who is creating a fictional narrative, but through the guise of it being real.
Yeah. Now, like I said, I didn't delve too deeply. I did order some t-shirts, and they came fine. I ordered the T-shirts a while ago.
Now, you guys have, you, or maybe Sean, RAP, has shit on me for pre-ordering games. I would never in a million years
Pre-order an album or something? I didn't do that.
Album, no.
I did not do that, though. I didn't pre-order an album. I just bought a T-shirt.
Even as like a musician, I don't think I'd ever put an album up for pre-order. I
don't see why I wouldn't do it, but I'm saying I don't see why I wouldn't put an album up for pre-order, but I don't think I'd pre-order an album. I'd always, when we had music stores, RIP, music stores and
right.
Best Buy, I'd go in there, I'd hit the buttons, see what's on the album, and then I'd make my selection.
That thing had, that album's already been sold. That album that you were viewing in an album store had already been pretty much selected, because that's how you got music, by the music gods that be, that this was the one that we were going to put
in the music
here.
box. I understand
this no
that.
longer exists.
Now you go to YouTube, you get the rip copy, you give it a couple jams, and then if you're going to buy it, you pick it up. Although in this day and age, not a lot of people are even doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, I personally kind of think we're better off, because we are systematically killing off the industry that is
the old gods that be.
Yeah.
That you were speaking of,
the
yes.
old gods, the old Cthulhu's, basically the leeches,
Putting
that have
fucking
their
brains
tentacles.
parasites on people and telling you what to think. Yeah,
that was one of the things whenever
manipulating the charts.
my dad brings up this documentary called The Wrecking Crew. He used to, he doesn't anymore, but I remember he used to bring it up, and he used to talk about how he would watch it all the time. And I never watched it because I was just kind of disgusted by the principle
practices.
It was
the lack of ethics and morality.
It was basically about a group of musicians who were just studio musicians that were making all of the studio recordings of the time. Some execs knew a formula for music, and they would attach. It's like Milli Vanilli, except in the 60s. They would have this group of musicians record the music, and then they would attach the name to whatever they were trying to sell. And that, to me, was just so perverted. It's taking art and just sucking the marrow out of it. And through being a musician, hearing that as part of the history of modern recording and how things have transpired, it just makes me so
deflated
sick.
And nauseous and physically ill.
It's like I knew that was part of it, because there's been very similar stories about that with part of Sumerian, with part of
all kinds of stuff. It was even on Unsolved Mysteries, man. There was a murder about it. I could launch into that, but I want to wrap up with this Litigoria, I think is how you say the album. Basically, you're going to get these Russian Orthodox chants. You're going to get a trancey, drony guitar part that'll build up into a swell, and then you'll get a really simplistic rhythmic break, and then it'll go back and do it again. You get that over the course of the album.
And then at the end, Yoko Ono goes, "Yeah! Thank you. You've been good."
But don't you want to talk about the Unsolved Mysteries thing? It's a murder case.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened?
Okay, you want to do this? We're going to translate into this, because we totally missed out on talking about Elon Musk. But let's talk about this.
We could do that. Okay, so this Unsolved Mysteries case was, this man is found gunned down in the street.
Now, this was an actual episode of Unsolved.
This is an actual episode. This is the good ones with Robert Stack. This is one of the originals.
I just wanted to say, Unsolved Mysteries, the subreddit, They won no part of recounting or like personal conversation of this.
Oh no.
And it's kind of unfortunate because that's like a dead subreddit.
Yeah, they just repost the old cases every once in a while.
Yeah, it show's over. Like, what do you people want?
Okay, so the case is a man is found gunned down in the street. His friend then calls in, says that they were attacked the night before by a gunman. He recounts a small story of they were hanging out, they were walking to his car, and this guy comes up, yelled something at them. I don't recall what it was at the time, and then starts shooting. And he was lucky. The one man died, and the guy that got away was lucky to have survived. He was pretty badly shot and wounded. I think he got shot twice. And it comes to the light that the man that was shot and killed was working for a like top 100 country ranking system. You know, like how they have a top 40 of pop. That's like what's going to be on Kiss FM. He was working for a country one. And there were some rumors, and in the weeks leading up to his death, he was talking to his family. He's like, I got to make some decisions. I got like a hard choice coming up in my life. And there were rumors that he was fixing the top 100 ranking system. They couldn't find evidence of this. The case kind of fizzled. I think 30 years later, it turns out that he was gunned down because he would refuse to fix the rankings for the country ranking system. He was doing what he felt...
The honorable thing.
He was doing the honorable thing, and one of the record dealers didn't like that. He wanted the few... Because he was basically taking money from artists, like exorbitant amounts, to get them up to the top, and then he was trying to force his hand on this guy writing the ranking system, and he fucking killed him for it. It was so slimy. Turns out the guy thought he was like a mafia don. He like fixed one of his henchmen on him. It was just this gross story of abuse of power, pushing the ethics, and trying to force money and music all into one bastardized abomination of trying to tell people what they need to be listening to.
Now, I wouldn't say that with, unfortunately, with, Mac Miller dying today. I wouldn't say that his music was so prolific that somebody would kill him to gain the rights. Am I wrong? I don't know, because I'm not that into Mac Miller.
What are you trying to say? You got Tupac?
Yeah, something like Tupac, something like the Jimi Hendrix story, something like Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin, where, they're the 27 Club, but more so like killing somebody before they have the wherewithal in them to destroy their career. So whoever owned the rights to them could just sell them
it off
into legendary status, for the rest of their days, and they'll never have.
Well, now they just turn you into a fucking hologram. That's just fucked up.
But that's the thing; they wouldn't need to turn these people into hologram because the Doors is still beloved to this fucking day. I think you kids out there, young bucks that aren't listening to us, listening to the Doors.
The future will be holograms of all your favorite artists performing to you live in your living room with your pants off. Gut out. It's the future. So what was this Elon Musk thing you want to talk about?
Actually, let's end the regular show and let's end the stream, and then let's do a little addendum. So if you want to hear this, it'll come out in a video a little bit afterwards, because this has to be talked about. It's just some juicy material. But let's take a little break, or just the end. If you're streaming this, catch it on the YouTube later.
Goodbye. This is the end.
My beautiful friend. The end. Actually, we should just like, Mother, I want to fuck you. Fuck you. Ah!